it's very hard to speak after a guy like Guy standing, of course. I mean, I can't do that in the same way. But what I'm going to try to do in the coming, say, 20 minutes, half an hour maybe, is go a bit in depth about what is happening here in the Netherlands, experiment-wise. And we've already seen them coming by. They were mentioned. The experiments, some are related to social security, some might go further than that. And that's something I want to bring the nuance in and try to explain what is the connection to basic income, what's not the connection to basic income, how can this be mediated in the sense that it's useful for everyone. So first, I'll go into kind of the contents of these experiments, what are they about, and after that I'll talk a bit about the recent political developments, cooperation between municipalities and the like. And of course afterwards there's a lot to say about this, so just any questions you might have, you can of course ask me. There's a lot to say, so depending on what you want to hear, I'll cover that as well. But first, these experiments, what are they? And actually, there's not one simple kind of answer to that, because there's many different ideas of experiments. Since about 2 years ago, there's been a lot happening in the Netherlands on this topic. There's been a lot of discussion, and many different initiatives have come up. You might say this started partially, of course, with, for example, the article of Rutger Bregman by the VPRO Tegenlicht episode on basic income. There was at some point also a recording in Groningen in which Professor Guy Stelling was also present and just talked about this. And this was, I think, the first point that really became serious when the alderman of Groningen, whom I'm very thankful for that, really said, okay, I want to do an experiment with the basic income. And as soon as that happened, there was already a lot going on in people's minds, but this was the first time kind of like a leading politician really said, let's do this. Well, there were already many people saying we should do this. And since then, politicians, aldermen, council members throughout the country, and of course a lot of civil initiatives connecting with those, have said, let's do this, and have started making plans. And this has led now to a collection of experiments, and almost all of those started with the idea, are inspired on a basic income, so really on this full basic income idea, kind of the long-term perspective. But some of those experiments, actually many of them, have really since then kind of crystallized into contextual forms which are more like in social security as it is right now, because municipalities, of course, can't do everything, that they only have limited power, and one of the things they have recently gotten a bit of power over is social security, kind of the most basic social security system. So this is one of the practical reasons why many of these experiments have gotten really into this kind of bijstand experiments, so the basic social security system in the Netherlands, making steps and implementing aspects of a basic income into our current system, you might say. So what are these aspects? Well, first I'll have to explain what is the difference then between our current social security system and the basic income. And mostly I talk about this in kind of 4 functional differences, and 2 of those are relevant to the experiments. So firstly, our current system, of course, is conditional in various ways. So not only on your income, but also you have to apply for a job, you have to participate in all these projects, and you have to report everything you do. Even when you do volunteer work, you can't do everything. You first have to go through a trial period in which you have to apply for a job. All these kinds of conditions, and the list has grown longer last year when the new law was participatiewet was enacted. So this is one difference, and this is of course a very important difference, because this brings with a lot of possible disadvantages for which basic income can be a solution, like stigma, like feeling secure, like stress that's with the current system. So this is one aspect, and it's not really a financial aspect, it's more about, of course, enacting all these measures costs a lot of money as well, so checking on people, controlling this, but it's more also a kind of, the rules-based, condition-based aspect. The second one is of a more financial nature, is the poverty traps that are in the current system, or the bigger poverty trap that's in our current system, because when you have an allowance, when you have a bijstandsuitkering in the Netherlands, and you start working, so you get a paid job, then directly you lose your full allowance. So this means, for example, say, just for sake of an example, say you first get an allowance, you have €1,000 a month, say, And then suddenly, well, you find a job, a part-time job, and it earns you 1,000 euros a month as well. So you might think, yes, now I have 2,000 euros and I'm kind of out of poverty, I'm feeling better, I'm getting rewarded. But instead, what happens in our current system, of course, is that you lose your allowance directly. So you're still at the same level, and you don't really feel rewarded and stimulated to go on. And this might even be worse. So in some cases, you might lose even more because you lose extra benefits, and you might even have less to spend than when you had the allowance. This is a kind of a weird part of our system because it's so complex. Yeah, this is a problem. Of course, there are small, this has already been seen, so there are small things, rules in our current regulation that try to account for this so that you can earn a bit extra for a limited period of time, but these also are exceptions and not really a structural way of dealing with this. Well, and of course with the basic income, that's something everyone gets, so when you start working you just keep it and you don't have this poverty trap. These two differences are basically the difference between our current system, you might say, and a negative income tax, a word many of you might have heard before. So, and they are, in a sense, the two essential differences that most municipalities right now want to experiment with. So what do they want to do? What can they do, in fact, and what do these experiments amount to, is removing these conditions, at least to a certain extent, so really trying to not check too much on people, really work with people instead of trying to check up on them, and then working more from a kind of stimulating, helping perspective instead of trying to see if someone is allowed or not. That's one part, and allowing people to earn extra money next to their allowance, so that it becomes kind of like a basic income for these people. These are, of course, important steps. They're some of the most essential differences between our current system and the basic income. So this is a very big step, you might say, in the direction of a basic income. Certainly if you look at the only differences that are left then. So I would argue that these experiments are not full basic income experiments, but really go quite a big step in that direction and really use parts of them. And the big challenge right now is to put this nuance in and take both the results of these experiments within the debate of basic income, but in a way that you really don't exaggerate the importance for basic income, but also not underestimate it. So this is one of the major challenges with these experiments. The last two differences between our current system and the basic income, I won't go into them in too much detail because they're not about the experiments, but just to give an idea, they are, of course, that our current system is not individual, so it's household-based mostly, in different ways. And that's a difference you can argue about. And the last difference mostly is more complex, more abstract, is more of a, almost you could say, a bookkeeping trick. So this is something you actually kind of need an hour for to explain exactly what I mean with that. But it's whether, of course, let me see how I explain that. You can give people, can give someone extra money, and then of course, at some point we all pay the basic income, right? So the basic income is paid by society. It's not something that comes from somewhere weird. It's something we all pay together for in taxes. So most people just pay their own basic income in the end. That's if people stay working, which is what we, of course, why not? Why would people not stay working? That's the question you should ask. But if that happens, the people just pay taxes and then mostly pay their own basic income back in the form of taxes. So this last difference is just about whether you first kind of trust people and give them a basic income, and then most people will just pay taxes and in the end will pay the basic income with that. So kind of indirectly you'll discount it again, because in the end, of course, we all have to pay things together. Or whether you look at someone and say, okay, you get money, you don't get money because you are below a certain threshold. And this doesn't have financial consequences. This is just about whether you first give it and then kind of finance it by taxes, or just only give it to some people and just check with their income. But this is a whole different lecture, and so if you have questions about that, of course, I'll go into more depth about it. But what's important now is to realize that these first two steps are very important, but on the other hand, aren't everything. So one thing, of course, with the experiments is that you'll do these experiments with people who are already in the current system, who kind of are in this position and have been in this system, and kind of the mindset the system puts on people. So it's not like we're suddenly people suddenly, if they feel distrusted, that will suddenly think, oh, okay, now I get more trust, so I'm suddenly happy from nowhere. Things will need to change, and this is a fundamental change in attitude in the system. So there's challenges there, both for people who are using this allowance and for people who are kind of, well, at least supposed to help these people to find a way to get to income or to get to work or to do something with that in their lives. So, and this fundamental attitude shift is very important. So this is something we should, look out for in these experiments, that this is done well. Because if it's just changing the rules without this shift of attitude from checking and saying you have to go to work, because that's the rule, and only then you get this allowance, you have to go to, hey, good that you're here, I can help you if you want, I don't have to, but if you want, I can help you. If you want, for example, to find a paid job, that's fine, we can help you with that, we can offer you training. What are your long-term desires? Where do you want to go? What is your motivation lie? This is a whole different approach, of course, and many people working in Social Security, I think, originally wanted to have this approach and go into this job to do this, but our current system confines them because they have to check certain boxes and say, oh, you don't get an allowance, I have to check on you. So this is double attitude that I think drives a lot of people crazy, what I've seen. Also people working in Social Security. So, that's about the contents. There's something more. This is about most of the projects. So the projects that really are in discussion now in most of the media and are done by the municipal governments. There are some initiatives that really want to do a basic income experiment, or at least also take target groups that are not included in current Social Security. So this is very interesting. I hope that these experiments will really get there, that they might kind of strengthen each other and really get some more insight into that. And then I'm talking about some municipalities. Leeuwarden, many of you will know about, has been in the media as well, that are trying really to set up a basic experiment. I think, the people there are here. Maybe give them a hand because that's really good. Guys, please stand up. I think you deserve a hand because they're working on that really hard. And I think... Sorry?
You can sign for it.
Oh yeah, you can sign for it. It's also a citizens' initiative, and they're working both.
So come to us and sign. Yeah.
Do that, please. So what's really interesting there is that both having the citizens' initiative, and they're also working with local politicians. So and actually got them as far that they will now fully pass a motion to really investigate this structurally, the possibility to have a basic income experiment in Leeuwarden, or not only Leeuwarden, but Friesland more generally. So that's really good, and there's more. There's also a small town of Gelderop-Mierlo, for example, near Eindhoven, where they have a more ambitious town, it's a municipality, more ambitious ideas. They're more from the aldermen and local politicians. Or Terneuzen in Zeeland, which has more from a health perspective, has a bigger project on how to do something about health in a more general way, in which basic income might play a role. So they're also exploring the option there. So this is really, there's huge potential there, and I hope, and of course I'll also try to help facilitate these experiments, and if anyone wants to help or wants to set up something like that, please do, and we will get there. There is enough will. So these two things do not exclude each other. So basically my point is then that there's a lot going on, and the challenge now is to put things in the right frame and to put things in the right perspective and to draw the right lessons from it. When these experiments are here, for example, that doesn't mean that we're there. What's really important then, of course, is that the right framing comes out, that we really draw the right lessons from it. Because, for example, what you saw in Canada, of course, many of you will know about the income experiment there, is that it just, it wasn't kind of really investigated until a few years ago. So these things might happen. We need to keep this up. But I'm drifting away a bit because from the essence of my story. This is about the contents of the experiments mostly. There's many different initiatives. There's still many things rising up right now. It's constantly developing. Each week there are new developments. And let me get to the numbers of that to give you an idea. So there's these 3 municipalities that are really serious, or there are serious initiatives for a real basic income, at least targeting more groups than Social Security only. Then there is the municipalities that are experimenting in social security. And this has been amazing how many people have collaborated there. I think it's quite unique that so many municipalities have collaborated together on something. Right now, we have 19 municipalities, of which the aldermen have stated their intention to do this. So really said, we want, because, for example, there was a motion put forward in the council, or because of citizens' initiative, or because the alderman himself wanted to, because anything happens, sometimes from civil servants. And this is quite crazy if you think about it. If 2 years ago there was no one who was thinking about this, or hardly anyone, and then this comes up. And in about 50 or 60 or 70, I think it's maybe 80 now, municipalities, something happened. And this is now crystallized to that we have 19 municipalities, where really the municipality says, we want to do something with this. Does not mean that all these 19 will start, but it means that the municipality has officially said, yes, we want to do something with this. Please, national government, give us the space to do this. That's a huge step, I think. And as I said, most of these experiments started with the idea of a basic income, but because of political negotiations and the name, the definition, which Professor Standing also talked about, things have changed a bit. So some of these experiments are now called trust experiments, they're called conditionalist bijstand, they're called social security, no, social bijstand. So there's all these creative names coming up, but in a sense, most of these started with this idea: how can we implement aspects of a basic income in our municipality right now? So these 19 are serious, but after that there will be probably a lot more. So I know about 3 or 4 motions coming on the next month, for example, about this in other municipalities like The Hague or Arnhem in the Netherlands. So there's still other municipalities who want to join, and I've been invited to talk at some other municipalities where they're also interested. So this just keeps on developing. It's almost a luxury problem. We have so many people who want to do this. So that's good, and of course there are also still many challenges, because this really comes from municipalities and from kind of citizens' initiatives. And national politics is very prudent, you might say. It's very, they didn't really know what to do with this, and there was a lot of media attention for it, for basic income, and they didn't know how to react, so they tried to keep it kind of low pace and said, okay. But what has changed, there has been a fundamental change, whereas 2 years ago, when someone would say basic income in the Netherlands, and people would say, oh, weird idea, maybe something, you can think about, but sympathetic, but impossible. Now, it's actually a topic in Parliament. It's being talked about in Parliament. Parties have to form an opinion about this, and many motions also within political parties have been put forward to address this, to do experiments. So a great lot has changed on that matter, and it's part. You can see it in these small signs. Recently, I watched this episode of Zondag met Lubach. Maybe some of you know this program. It's an actual kind of like the American The Daily Show, and inspired on this American kind of satirical news anchoring with a critical, societal critical thing on it. And they discuss basic income next to climate change and next to this Zwarte Pieten discussion, which is a whole different, the Black Pete discussion. Don't talk about that. But it's an issue also in these national programs. So we're very far on that. So yes, to the experiments then. Where are we on this national level? Of these 19, 4 of them were the first to really speak out on this, and they started talking to the ministry on it. So this is Utrecht, Wageningen, Tilburg, Groningen. They were the first 4 to really say, we're going to do this, and we're going to develop a plan, and we're going to talk to the Ministry of Social Security and Employment. So they have been in conversation. The ministry has also been very, it's sensitive. It's a sensitive topic, certainly with our current government. So they have been kind of trying to postpone it, in a sense, not really working against it, because they felt, I guess, that there is so much will in society from all different political backgrounds. That's one of the best things about it. So they can't really stop it, but they also don't really want to facilitate it too much, because that's very sensitive in the national government. But now, so we're still not there on that sense. Next month, 16th of February, there will again be a meeting between the aldermen of these 4 municipalities, and the State Secretary of Social Security and Employment, Jette Kleinsma. And then hopefully we will finally get this this process going, this official formal process of making the room in the law for these experiments. So this is where we stand right now. But like I said, many more municipalities have now come out to the ministry written a letter, which also André Willems has signed. I'm very glad with that. And they have all said, we want to do this, we want to get the most space possible. Please give us the room to do this in our way. Give the municipalities. This is an initiative by the people themselves, by the municipalities themselves. Let them take this on. Create the space that should be there, because the whole point of the past few years in the Netherlands has been decentralization, right, in these kind of areas. So such a process doesn't go perfectly, so there's still elements of very centralized policy in there, and that's what's in the way right now. So it's really a call to the national government, please give us the room to really do this our way as it's meant to be, and do these experiments. And the good thing is, I just mentioned it, this is really from political parties all over the field. Actually now, with the letter signed, all the elders of the 19 municipalities, we have elders from every political party present in parliament in a local thing. And of course also many local parties, like also here in Maastricht. So there's there's people from just CDA, VVD, ChristenUnie, PvdA, GroenLinks, D66, SP, of course. Let me see more. Am I forgetting? Which one? No, not PVV, because they do not, of course, have an alderman anywhere. So the one party that doesn't have that's not included, I should say, is the SGP, because they don't have that many aldermen as well. But all other parties are included, that are also in parliament. So this is a great thing. They have all signed, we want to do something with this, and we hope that this will send a strong message. But a lot what hasn't been said on this. This is going to be very exciting, and we have to put everything together to get there, because, like I said, there's many people who want this, but there's also it's a sensitive topic still, especially in social security, it's in general a sensitive topic. So, in order to get there, we need to combine our efforts and really work on that together with all these parties, and really keep it this general municipality thing. That's the political standpoint. There's a lot of cooperation between the municipalities on other levels. Now also on the academic side, I think a few of the researchers are here today, which is really nice. And they're involved also in looking at options to kind of have a joint project on this, to really compare the things in a scientifically valid way, in a sense, get the most out of this. So there is a lot going on. Also there are weekly developments. I think I'm gonna stop here, because I've been talking longer than expected, of course, as always. And if you have any questions on all of this, there's a lot more to say, please ask, and I'll do my best to answer. Thank you.